All right. So today's video is going to be about social networks and specifically how we treat social networks in online ministry. One of the things that you'll hear a lot of people who are pro online ministry talk about is how social networks, because of the population of daily users, is comparable to missions with countries that India has 1 billion people. So why wouldn't you spend energy on a ministry that's plugged into and using an app that has 1 billion daily users? That those two are comparable. And I've talked about this in the past, where I think that's not comparing apples to apples, that's actually comparing apples to orchards. That an app is something that that is the product of culture, whereas countries are cultures. There are places that live and breathe and have customs and food and laws and people and languages and all that kind of stuff. And the app is just kind of one feature in all that that orchard that produces the app. That kind of thing. So as we look at social media platforms, though, especially through that lens of, that we're treating it like a missions, like this is an opportunity to communicate with the world through this avenue. That's why we're putting attention to it, because of these numbers. What got me wondering about it is twofold. First thing was something as simple as the hashtag for evangelism on Instagram. This hashtag has over 470,000 impressions, and when you look at the content, it tracks exactly what you'd think evangelism hashtagged things go for. They are posts about sharing the gospel. They are posts that are sharing the gospel. They are evangelistic posts. And everything kind of tracks. And what took me that one step back to just look at this critically was that I realized that there isn't a non-Christian in the world that is looking for the term evangelism in their daily life without having already been introduced in real life to the concept of evangelism. I just don't see how non-Christians are seeing these posts that are supposedly for them evangelistically. That's not how hashtags work. That's not how trending topics work. I've never seen a topic, even though it has 470,000 posts that have this hashtag, I've never seen one in my daily feed. And there's a reason for that. The reason is because the hashtag and the intent behind the content in the beginning doesn't match. And so as we're approaching social media platforms, as people who want to do ministry online, we have to take into account what those platforms are doing and who's on those platforms. That that demographic needs to be wrestled with. That it has to be taken into account for. And when we look at the platforms and we use that kind of rationale that because there's people on these platforms, that's why we need to go. We have to be real about what that actually means. And there's one site that comes to mind that, kind of like challenges that worldview, that online worldview of, we're just going to go where the people are. And that's because one of the largest social media platforms where you can interact with each other's content, where you can, comment on people's videos, where you can chat with creators, all that kind of stuff. One of the most popular platforms for that stuff is not Instagram, and it's not Facebook, and it's not TikTok. It's Pornhub. And I know that's like, that just gets the creeps, coming up and down your spine when you hear that in a video about evangelism. But, when you look at the numbers, the daily users of Pornhub just, tower over top of the daily users of some of these other sites. They're the most popular social media sites, but by the metrics that we value them as social media sites, the same mechanics exist on a site that it would be dangerous for a Christian to go on to for evangelistic purposes. How would you even do that? How would you ever approach something that is that vitriolic, that's that dangerous and filled with explicit images and people who are not there for good reasons? It is entirely unneutral ground. They are only there to sin. They're not there just to have hobbies and post pictures of it, or do a YouTube channel for their specific niche that they want to try and carve out, or have opinions like you have on Twitter and just throw them around like everyone does. Those are social networks, and the same metrics that exist there as far as sharing content and being able to interact with different people who are on there, that exists in greater numbers than most of those on a site that we can't touch with a 10-foot pole. So when we have Christians who say that, they're going online to do ministry because there's people there, this is, the internet calling their bluff. Because, the internet isn't a place where people are gathering. It's a thing that people use. And right now, there are more people using Pornhub for things that are definitely not Christian than there ever will be Christians using Instagram for things that are. So I don't know how to wrestle with that. I don't know what to make of those two things with the current scheme of understanding the internet that we have. I don't know how to, justify the time and effort spent on, hashtags like evangelism that seem to be only reaching people who are only Christian, when there are definite non-Christians out there on platforms that we can't get to because of how we would have to behave to get on those. This is one of those kind of divides that shows that the internet is not this kind of idyllic place where, everything's just, sunshines and daisies. And because of, the capability of things to go viral, it'll just make things so much easier to be evangelistic. The truth is that it's actually really hard to be evangelistic online because content can't do the work for you. When you want to show someone a piece of content that's novel or cool, or that accomplishes something, you do a stunt and you land it perfectly, and you want to show the world, it gets traction because of the content itself. But what we're pointing to isn't a piece of content; it's a relationship with a person. It's a relationship with Jesus Christ. To know Him as your Savior and your Lord, and that is something that's not recognized on the internet at all. So the language we bring to it is going to be a barrier, and it's recognized against in places like Pornhub, where how would you ever do evangelistic content on that social media? Well, the truth is that you couldn't. You almost have to leave it alone. And I think that's kind of the point, that there's things we have to reject on the internet because it's the thing, as opposed to try to interject ourselves as if it were a place, because it's not. So just some random thoughts about social media and porn, and we'll talk to you guys later.